The YouTubes we go. So we got our dyno, a basic block model imported into ZBrush. It's still going to be not that high of a res. And there's ways of doing it in here there's like several ways of remeshing it, and one of those is called ZRemesher, and there's Dynamesh and all this other stuff. We're gonna just start off with something very simple with divide. And I'm going to hold down the Option key and the mouse button at the same time. Release the Option key, and that way I can zoom in so you can actually see the low res mesh that we imported in. So when I go to divide, and if I click it, you can see that those squares got smaller. Okay. What we're going to do is go ahead and delete the lower right there, and then divide it again. You can divide it again, delete the lower, and so now it's kind of basically like a good resolution to play around with. As far as, I'll go to a brush called the standard brush, which is just your basic brush, and you can kind of kind of zoom out here, or we'll just hit frame and frame it up. And we can kind of go in there, and you can see how I can begin to sculpt, and you can put the detail on it. And you can even still see the mesh when I start pulling it out, though. We're going to use something called ZRemesher. Right now I have on, you can see it did both sides of the dinosaur. When you're sculpting, sometimes you want to have on what's called symmetry, so it does both sides, and you don't have to like do each side separately. And that's found under your transform menu up here, and you can go to activate symmetry, and you usually want to be on the X and the M there. So it does both sides. Even if you're doing the top and bottom, it'll still do both sides. Okay. If you wanted to do top and bottom, then under transform, you would want to like take off the X, maybe put on the Y, so it does both. But whatever. Okay. Let's go to transform, take off the Y, put on the X. All right, and you might want to take that off when you're doing, like if I was just doing a ridge, like a single ridge, I can kind of double it up there. Kind of see how it works. All right, the standard brush just either pops it out or pushes it in, basically. So depending on when you're brushing, you have an intensity on how strong it's going to do it. Low intensity, you kind of build up to what you want. Maybe that's too low to demonstrate with. Okay, and then you can go subtract or add up here. So I'm on intensity, subtract and add. I can go to subtract, and we'll bring it up. You can create indentations. You have a draw size, so you can do really fine details. And you can do a focal shift, which is kind of like how you do a hard brush and a soft brush in Photoshop or other painting programs, where the inner ring is basically where it's focusing, and then the outer ring is how it feathers and like blends in. So if your focal shift is like really small, you kind of get a smaller effect, and it's blending in a little bit nicer on the edges. And if you go to like make your focal shift very small or large, you kind of don't get that same blend. Kind of see the difference there. The shift key held down is your universal smooth tool. So you don't have to, there is a smooth brush. When you go to the brushes, you can go to the alphabet and you can look for a smooth brush. The shift key is a shortcut for that. and you basically just click on the brush that you want to use. So once you click on the brush, it'll go back to, like, you know, you can go to flatten, and I can flatten off like some of these things if I wanted to create like a ridge. Most of the brushes do what they say. I'm going to teach you some sculpting and painting techniques as we go, but right now we're just kind of doing an overview. What we're going to do is start creating muscle and sinew and tissue and creases and crinkles like you have on your dinosaur or an animal like that. Remember, you can always click on frame and frame it up. Hold on your shift key and rotate it. If you have areas of your dino that are too small and you want to like kind of like form it up, like let's say I want to kind of make him a little more yoked and make him a little bit buffer. You know, I could go to what's called a move topological, and it's kind of hard to like, where is it? You have a move and a move topological, and with the move brush, you can kind of start stretching it out. I don't know if I have on, I do have on symmetry. And we have one called inflate, and all kinds of different, like I just go to move, and the intensity, and I can kind of start building up some muscle tissue. And if I start thinking that he is a little too skinny or what have you, I can see how it's doing both sides at the same time. And I can start kind of like popping out the shoulders a little bit better. Let's say I kind of made him too buff. He's like the Hulk now. Let's say I think now that his forearms are too small, I can kind of go in there and start shaping those up as well. I can pull out the elbow a little bit better. You have a brush called inflate, so I can go to the eye and go to inflate, and inflate like can thicken up portions for you instead of pulling on them. I can inflate out the muscles. His chest is too shallow now. His neck is a little too skinny now. So I want to kind of think about the rib cage and the shoulders and the hips. And he's a little bit malnourished, so we'll give him some more guts. And his tail's a little skinny. I still have all the crap I did to him. And then, you know, what I would do is go to, there's one called the Dam standard, or Damien standard. We call it the Dam standard. So Damn You standard. And it's basically like the standard brush, but it does like a harsher, crisper, type of line. And this is where we can start adding in creases and wrinkles that you would have normally. I'm just doing a super sloppy job just so you can get the idea on like shoulders and stuff like that. And in the creases of arms. And this is where I don't have my Wacom set up, but this is where you would want to, possibly do your Wacom tablet. There's also a standard brush, which does very similar things to the dam standard, but it's not as finely detailed, so it's for bigger spots. And there's a thing over here called dots, and if we put it on drag direct, we can actually alter how the brush works. So it either creates dots, which is like a long, you can kind of see like it's doing one dot and then another dot and then another dot close together, and that's how it creates that that ridge. But we do have other methods like freehand and dots and stuff, and I kind of like dots or freehand for this type of stuff. We have a brush called Clay Buildup. So I just go to the C, because it's really hard to spot. Clay Buildup is really good for muscle and sinew. Like you kind of like start thinking, you know, the anatomy of your creature, and you start like muscles. I don't know if you remember dissecting your frogs and stuff in science class, but sinew is really kind of like striated like that. And then you hold down your shift key and start smoothing it out. And you can go to your polish brushes and bring up your intensity and start polishing it up until it's, you know, a little bit more flattened. And this is how we build up like textures and muscle tone and stuff like that, and polish out some of these crappy lines that I did. Smooth brush really is like the ultimate fixer. Okay. And so you can kind of see like how I did the leg a little bit. I don't really think the leg is thick enough, so maybe I go over to thicken up the thigh. I can go back to move or move topological. They're very similar. And kind of start. It's really small movements. It's really subtle touches. It's not like big, you're done. Okay, you got to kind of work and drag it in. Like, look how much, I mean, it's not the best stuff because I was goofing off a little bit, but look how much detail I've created. Now, that is your basic way that this functions. Remember, you hold down the Option key and the mouse button, and then let go of the Option key while still holding down the mouse button. You can zoom, or you can use the zoom over here. You have just rotate, so you can rotate there. I don't know, you know, just click down with your mouse. I don't even know why they put a tool there, but there's move, which you hold down the Option and the mouse button at the same time. So it's like a quick workflow. You go up and you know, you hit the letter B for brushes. If you know the name of your brush, it's all alphabetized. And a lot of them, some of the brushes are like actual models, like they paint stuff like zippers and scales and shapes, and you don't want to really mess with those right now. But some of you did dinosaurs like Triceratops, like Andre did Triceratops. You would want to use what's called the snake hook brush, and the snake hook brush, just hit OK to that message if it comes up. You're probably going to want to put on under transform your symmetry right here. You can click on that to deactivate it, and basically the snake hook brush allows you to pull out pieces parts. But what happens as if you pull out too many parts is eventually your resolution starts getting really like screwy. You can kind of see my resolution is getting jagged because I'm stretching out the topology or the mesh. And so that's when something where we go over here to the side under geometry where Dynamesh comes in, and this is, the pros use this like for days. And what you do is you bring it up to a resolution you think is somewhat decent. I'll just say 1600, and then you click on Dynamesh, and it turns gold. And then to activate the Dynamesh, you hold down the command key and just click and hold down your mouse and drag off to the side. And basically what will happen is it'll remesh the area over. So you can see, like, I can come in there and start polishing it up. Okay. So if I were to start like stretching it out again, eventually it gets all mangled like that. And even if I try to polish it up, it doesn't. It just starts resizing it. You can kind of see, like, you can see the big pieces of mesh right there. With Dynamesh, if you hold, once it's on and you have your resolution set, you just hold down your command key and you click and drag with your mouse, and it will remesh that area. And then you can go in here and I can hold down the shift key and polish it up, and you can see that it did the mesh for a better resolution. And this is how we get a lot of details. So like I could keep stretching it out like that, hold down my command key and click and drag with the mouse button held down. It remeshes it to the Dynamesh setting, and then I can hold down my shift key and go in there and polish it up. And this is how we get like incredible details out of your model. He looks like a weird mutated moose now. So Dynamesh is going to come into real powerful. Dynamesh is not the same as Divide. Divide does the whole thing, and sometimes you don't need to do it to certain parts. As you model, you're going to inevitably find that you're going to have parts that get in the way. Like, let's say I want to get inside the mouth, and this is where you can hold down the shift and control key and just see a certain portion. If you hold down the shift and control key and then you drag, it'll reverse it. So if I wanted to just get, like, I don't know, the upper mouth, like, I could hold down my shift and control key and it'll show me the part that I dragged over. But if I hold down the shift and control key and just click, or drag, sorry, my bad, it'll reverse that. And so I can kind of get in there and just you know, do the, like, let's say the snake hook brush, and just do like the teeth or something on the upper jaw. Okay, and then if I hold down the shift control key and click, it'll bring back the rest of it. Okay, and then if I wanted to do the bottom jaw now, I could hold down the shift and control key and drag around the portion. It'll show me what I dragged around. But if I click and drag, it'll flip it, and I can go, you know, do that section. And then if I hold down the shift and control and just click, then it comes back. And so I could do a lot of complex work there. If there's, like, it's in the way, I can't like reach the spot that I want to get to. Dynamesh is found under geometry over here. You have this whole list of stuff here, and we're going to be going over a lot of it, but one of the main things to start off with is geometry and Dynamesh, and we're going to use that a lot, and going to subtools and doing things like extract and things like that, and separating our pieces parts. And then when we use these spheres, we'll go down here and there'll be something called adaptive skin. That's how we make the skin that you like see here, and then I can start modeling that. All right, so you can like pretty much do any details you want. It's just like clay, and it's just kind of like getting used to how the tools work, and what brush does what, and how to adjust your brushes. On its most basic level, you're taking up here again an intensity, so like it's either really strong or barely does anything at all. and you have a focal shift for the softness or hardness of it, and then you have a draw size, and you're either adding or subtracting. You always must be in edit mode over here as you work. The minute you click off of that, it becomes not a, it leaves 3D model mode into 2D like illustration type of thing if you're not familiar with ZBrush. So you want to be on that all the times. So originally when I brought this in, I went to geometry and I went to divide, and then I deleted the lower. If you leave that, it's like leaving an undo behind, which is a recorded state of history of things that you've been doing, and that really sucks up your memory really quick if you leave those behind. Sometimes you do if you have like a good computer to like handle that stuff, but eventually, and your computers are good here, but eventually it'll like fill up and start slowing down, to put it in like layman's terms. So when you do divide, maybe a few times and then delete the lower, and that should be a high enough resolution, and then for you to then go to Dynamesh and start just working with Dynamesh and your different brushes. Some of these brushes, if you don't understand what it says, like trim circle, you don't know what that does, trim curve, you're not doing any of that kind of stuff yet. Just do ones that seem like they're ceramic tools, like clay and clay buildup. And I'll be going over like the top 5 or 10 in class. Most of those would be like clay, flatten, inflate, polish, snake hook, dam standard, smooth, the standard one, things like that. Those are all real good to start off with. And some of these have like a real specialty type of move, and we don't really need to get into that yet because we have no use for them yet. So we're just going to use some of the more sculpting tools. And when you click on a brush, then it will take you back to your work mode. Okay. And then of course under File, Save As, you'll save your file. When you first bring in your model, remember you're going to go to Import, click and drag it out, immediately hit Edit, and then go make Polymesh 3D, and then you can start working on your imported Dino basic block model that you made in Cinema. All right, and then in class I'll go over this a little bit more, but that's basically the sum of it. So geometry, Dynamesh, you want to set your resolution. So when we start doing the snake hook brush, I'm not on the snake book right now, let me go get it. It's a snake hook. If this pops up and it says like Sculptors Mode, just hit OK. Sculptors Mode is up here, but we're not going to be using that right now. So I can go in there, and you see how like I start losing resolution the more I drag it out. So I could like just drag it out a little bit and then go to Dynamesh, make sure it's yellow, my resolution set to higher. If it's not set to higher, it will remesh it to a lower resolution. So we're gonna hold down the Command key and click and drag, and that is the shortcut to remeshing it. So I can kind of keep remeshing it. I don't want to drag it out too far because number one, my model will get all stretchy, but I can remesh that and hold down the Shift key and polish it. But I kind of like lose control of how well I could do it. Remesh it, hold on Command key, click and drag. You might have to go to like smaller size brush. Then you can go in there and hold on your Shift key and polish it up. You could go to inflate, change your brush size, kind of round it out a little bit more. horns and teeth have little, they don't just grow out like that. So that's when you would go to something like the Dam Standard and go to a small brush and then kind of like start, I'm going to add, I guess. Then you can go to subtract. I'm not working with my brushes as much as I should. Okay, and then like really getting that detail in there, like I'm attempting to do with this. And not doing a very good job of it. Alright. Hold down my shift key. If I'm like, oh, I screwed it up. Smoothing it out again. Polish it up. Go to the polish brush. There's 2 of them. Some people might say, well, it says Polish. That's polish, and you can't read. So go in there and polish that up, and then I just keep little by little by little by little by little by little. You don't. It's not any big moves. It's a chess game. You're just one little teeny move, another one, that kind of thing. I could go to, if I want to get a larger area, the standard brush. I can put it on whatever size I want. I can kind of like, do the nostril. I think put it on subtract. Carve out an eye socket. Put it on add. I go to drag rectangle and pop out different sections. I can put it back on stroke. I can go to inflate. Bring out the eye. Of course, I could go to, let's say I want to fix that, I go back to clay and just like add some material and fill it in, polish it up. Go to the S polish or go to flatten. Thought I had that. F, flatten, bigger brush. Smoothing it out, fix it back to normal. There are brushes in here like Chisel Creature, which has some eyes to it. I clicked on my undo by mistake and took it back. But anyways, I did my I undid what I did by mistake. But with the Chisel Creature brushes, and I have so many things open right now. I have both Z brushes and both cinemas. Let's see if I can get to it. Chisel Creature. we go. I got it back. I'll put an eye here. So you have some areas that are some brushes that actually will carve the shape for you. Which are pretty cool. And so we're going to go over all these one by one by one. I mean, maybe some we'll skip, but for the most part, we're going to go over a lot of them. Some will create patterns. We have different things under the light box, like for brushes. We can go to scales, and I can go to lizard scales, and add some scales to him. All right, so I mean, this is fascinating software. You guys are gonna have a lot of fun screwing around with it. Anyways, I've just been kind of like goofing off with this. You can see my mangled mess. Four-eyed Moosesaurus. But just as an overview is what I just intended to do. So when you first bring in your model, remember you're going to go to geometry, divide, delete lower, and then you're going to start using some of the sculpting brushes, okay? And then as you start pulling out like other appendages and things like that, we're going to start using Dynamesh. And that'll be the extent of it for a while until we get used to that, and then we'll move on to Z-spheres and adding skins and more sculpting. And then eventually, we might do just an object just out of Dynamesh, and then we'll start with, you know, just like, I'm gonna clear this. So when you want to clear your screen, you just go to Switch, you click off of Edit, and you go to Switch and you hit the Command and N key. But we have regular tools, and so you can start with like a sphere, and then what the pros usually do is they go directly to Edit, and then they make Polymesh 3D, and then you can go down here to Geometry, Dynamesh, jack up the resolution, and then hold down the Command key and drag and remesh it. And then they start, we'll just go to Move, I guess. Where's Move? And then they just start actually modeling their dino, and then remesh, smooth it out. And create their creature from scratch. This takes a little bit more practice, which is why we're going to work with Z-spheres and block models from Cinema for a while. All right, so again, Edit, Switch, Command N, and I'm going to go to my Lightbox, and you can find under Recent here, most of your recent Sauruses and projects, you want to hit no so it doesn't screw up the last one. And here's my dino, and this is the one that I'm going to demonstrate in class with. Frame it up, ready to go. Okay, so I'll see you in class.